33. So run a 2-3 at your own peril against Moses, the native of the state of North Carolina, who readily admits that this game carries a little more weight for him. He also was pretty vocal in saying that Georgia Tech believes it's better than Duke, and they'll try to avenge the earlier loss against the Blue Devils in Durham.
Well, there's a lot of guys out.
You'll see some 1-3-1 early, right?
Yeah, you'll see a lot of mix-ups in terms of the defense, and a lot of this is to be disruptive. That's just going to be too easy. But you mentioned that about Moses Wright, a North Carolina kid. There's a lot of dudes out there that this game and playing North Carolina has a little something more to it. The only difference is Moses Wright can actually do something about it. He's that good.
Big Mark Williams was on the business end of that dunk. Here's who Josh Pastner sends out to start. Jose Alvarado, the senior leader. And right on cue, we get a dunk from Moses Wright. So Dunk has us at 2. A veteran Georgia Tech team against a really young Duke starting lineup. You got a couple of sophomores in there, and Wendell Moore and Matthew Hurt, who we've seen. And then you have freshmen, Roach and Stewart, who really struggled against Louisville on Saturday, and Mark Williams, who you've already heard from. First rebound of the night for Wright. Here come the Jackets on the push. Usher's been really playing well. Jordan will take his first shot from outside, and that was well off the mark.
And if you don't have a good look, there's nothing wrong against Duke in getting into a ball screen. Duke struggles to defend the ball screen. First play of the game, they score on it's a ball screen and roll. And Jose Alvarado does a great job of finding the open man.
Here's Jeremy Roach, DJ Stewart, who was 2 of 13 from the floor against Louisville. Almost turned it over. Shot clock inside 5. Going to have to be forced and on the way. And it is a rebound for Michael DeVoe. Duke playing man-to-man. Wright draws Williams away from the basket. We'll see how Williams handles any ball screens. Alvarado had a big game against Duke the first time, but had just 4 points against Syracuse on Saturday. His low output of the season. And to pop up the 3 in this long. Here comes the Blue Devils. Good hands on the inside. There is Alvarado knocking it loose. Alvarado on the other end can't get the shot up, but the shot is on the way for Khalid Moore in his first bucket of the night.
Alvarado does a great job of taking his body off of Matthew Hurt. If he takes his body off of Matthew Hurt, he can sneak around and get to the basketball. Also, Matthew Hurt doesn't know where he has to seal.
Alvarado leads the ACC in steals, and the shot from the corner, first three-pointer of the night for the Blue Devils, goes down for Wendell Moore Jr., shooting under 30% from out there. Duke's not a great three-point shooting team, but they have guys who can make it, and obviously Matthew Hurt has been torrid from behind the arc of late. Right, cut off nicely by Williams. And the step on the sideline and out of bounds, and it'll be Georgia Tech basketball. Here is the Hall of Famer Mike Krzyzewski, 5 national championships in his 41st season. He is the winningest coach in the history of men's college basketball. 1,168 wins, 1,095 of them coming at the helm of the Blue Devils after spending 5 years at West Point as the head coach of the Black Knights of the Hudson. He refers to that time at West Point. He was a cadet as a student and also an assistant coach for Bob Knight there. Many times he talked to Coach. He talked about the lessons learned. He was singing the praises of Moses Wright, saying simply, we asked about him, John, he's a pro now. And that was a terrific move inside.
And he talked a lot about the footwork, and so much of that comes from playing tennis. We talk about guys who grew up playing soccer. They have good footwork. They know how to use their feet, good balance. But tennis is the same thing. You're on your toes all the time. It's lateral quickness. It's reaction. And Moses Wright has it, as he shows it off right there on the quick jump block. What cute.
I asked Mike yesterday if, with Moses being from Raleigh, if he, understanding that he was not going to be recruited by Duke because he came to basketball so late in his high school career after playing tennis and swimming. I asked Mike if he'd ever seen him in high school. He said he didn't. He said, no, we never saw him. We've seen enough of him now.
Yes. Hindsight is usually 20/20.
Usher to the bucket and one.
That's a physical take. Open paint. This is where you see guys wait for a second. The paint gets open, you've got to attack. And the decisiveness is what leads to the finish. You're attacking a poor closeout from a big and Mark Williams, and you get to the opposite side of the basket because the paint's wide open.
Jordan has struggled from the perimeter. He's hit just one of his last 14 three-point shots, but he's still been physical. He had 19 points on 7 of 11 shooting on takes and many like that against Syracuse. And you know, it shows what a veteran guy transferred from Southern California. And Josh Pastner has done a really good job with several transfers on this team. His effort, one of the mantras that Josh follows among several of them, is try to get old and stay old at Georgia Tech. And this is a veteran club, and Usher has found his role, and it was a tough take on the other end.
If you're not a blue chip program, you have to get old and stay old. That's just how it is.
Khalid Moore called for the foul, trying to handle Hurt. Josh in his face shield going to put together some plans
to solidify their place in the field.
By replacement team, if you haven't followed along, once the NCAA selects, the selection committee selects the 68 teams, if there is a team that has COVID issues, they would be replaced by one of the first 4 out, so to speak, and they would just be plugged into the spot on the bracket where no matter what the seed of the team that had the issue. Certainly we're hopeful that everyone who is selected is able to go ahead and play once they get to state of Indiana and Indianapolis, mostly for that bubble to try to protect everybody. We saw Mark Williams score again on the other end. Tech turns it over, and Duke has a chance to take the lead.
And there's a million hypotheticals you could work through. I think ultimately we just have to get there and see what the field is. But enough people out there remember what it was like last March when we didn't have an NCAA tournament that I think, regardless of the field, we're going to be happy to see basketball in March.
Pump fake, step back, buckets. Matthew Hurt. It's a 3-ball, and Matthew has his first 3-pointer of the night.
And Duke's playing much better basketball as of late. They've settled in offensively, partially because they understand their roles and responsibilities, and they're better communicating on the defensive end. Still a lot to work on, but better. And when you have that kind of talent, it's still a good basketball team.
Moore gets in the paint. Now see if Wright can handle the size of Williams. Good cut to the basket and good denial at the rim. Usher was going up to finish it. And that rim protection is one thing that Mark Williams, with more minutes, gives Duke on defense.
Yeah, he's gotten so much better with his feel for the game. And you just watch his eyes. His eyes follow the ball. He keeps an eye. He keeps his peripheral on his man, but he does a good job staying in front of the play. A lot of young guys struggle to stay a step ahead of the play, and they often foul.
Alvarado had no choice. There was only 2 on the shot clock. He thought he got fouled. Pleading his case to the official. Our officiating crew tonight, by the way, Ted Valentine, Bill Covington Jr., Jeffrey Anderson, all with extensive experience, extensive tournament experience. Final 4 level crew, so we're expecting a lot of them tonight. Damon Brakefield is checked in for the Blue Devils. I think we're going to have a trip called on Kyle Sturdivant, who's into the game. There's Brakefield who lost it, and the scramble as Moore tried to get it. Unfortunate. Wrong place, wrong time. Foul called on Sturdivant.
But that's a great call by a very experienced official. Notice he didn't blow the whistle right away. He waited to see if an advantage was gained for Georgia Tech. And once he established that this is going to be a layup, he called the foul. I like that.
I agree. So if you thought we were crazy officials before questioning them tonight, you are a winner on your bingo card. Michael DeVoe with the rebound. Tech into the front court. Alvarado. Now Sturdivant answers with a 3.
And that's big by Jose Alvarado. He drew the help from Matthew Hurt, and he didn't pick up the ball and immediately pass it out, allowing Duke to scramble. He helped the defender there with the dribble and got his man an open shot.
Alvarado tried to pick Jordan Goldwire's pocket. Both those guys are quite adept at doing that, and perhaps it was all that scrambling and pressure that had Wendell Moore just snap it like he was a center for David Cutcliffe's football team and send it right out of bounds.
You can see when the pace picks up, there's a sense of urgency that mimics the look of panic. Where some of these young guys, the ball moves a little bit too quickly, and when you don't move it with poise, you end up throwing bad passes. I had a high school coach. Anytime someone threw a pass that was at your ankles or feet, he'd stop practice and just purposely throw the ball off your shins and say, yeah, try to catch that. It's like, yeah, we know it's not a good one. I got to settle down, but you're not helping. Same guy also let me shoot 40 times a game, so I got no complaints.
Reminds me of the baseball coaches who yell, hey, throw strikes. I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to throw it off the backstop.
We refer to that as video game coaching. Pick up the ball, get a rebound, shoot it. Like, thanks.
Hit that shot. Yes. Thank you, Coachy McCocherson. There's Goldwire on the lob, and for the second time tonight, they go right over the top to Big Mark Williams.
And you can see
Man,
how
we
they're
really
getting
saw him
comfortable.
play a lot. I'm sorry, Joe. We saw him play a lot the first time these two teams played.
Yep.
Really, when he started getting more minutes.
And all he did then was play hard and move and try. He did. He tried. But at this point, his teammates are getting comfortable with him to the point where they can trust him to get that ball. They threw it before he even got into position.
He bothers Moses' right shot, but Moses sticks with it as a veteran does, and he puts another bucket home. And Wright strong out of the gate.
That was 1-on-3, and Moses Wright still found a way to make it happen.
He's got 6 of Tech's 13. Boy, he's really been playing well. We talked about his story. Here's Joey Baker, who's checked into the game. Scoreless in 9 minutes against Louisville, and a foul is called. Got Jordan Goldwire, the senior from Norcross, Georgia, who's not too far away from his hometown here in Atlanta, back playing. And, of course, as all the seniors will, Jordan, if he so chooses, would have an opportunity to come back and play next year for Duke. A lot of Georgia Tech people are hoping all of their veteran guys choose to run it back next year for the Yellow Jackets. Sturdivant, another 3. Sturdivant's hit a couple.
Yeah, really good action offensively. A couple of back cuts to soften up the defense. As the defense flattens out, it leads to a down screen and an open 3. Just good action.
Brakefield, strong drive, nothing doing. Wright with a strong rebound. Bubba Parham is checked in now. Guy who's capable of getting hot quickly, a high-scoring guy at VMI before he transferred to Georgia Tech. Another 3 ball on the way. This is no good. And the Blue Devils down 4 have the ball.
Yeah, Bubba Parham, dangerous scorer, but not a lot of guys like Carly Jones out there that are going to come from Radford and lead the team in scoring and be the leader on the floor like he is at Louisville.
A really unique dance, we'll put it that way, after celebrating the fact that they beat Syracuse 22-8 on 50-50 balls.
I mean, the fact that he had the face shield on doing it too, with the button chops, sideburns, I mean, the whole thing just works, but there's all sorts of sincerity in that, and I think that's what was fun about it.
Really good out-of-bounds underneath execution by the Blue Devils. Wendell Moore gets it done. Georgia Tech has won its last 4 ACC games. John, they haven't won 5 straight conference games since the 95-96 season. That's what they're trying to do tonight.
And so many people go, man, how's that possible? It's a good program. Well, it's the ACC. And look, this is not a normal year for the ACC. You usually have 3 teams in the top 10. Clearly some struggles, especially the teams that are young in this COVID year where you haven't had the team. It's time to establish the dynamics of a normal season.
And you see Moses Wright get his 8th point. The one thing I would say about this Georgia Tech winning streak, you saw the number of assists that they put up. They had 33 field goals against Syracuse on Saturday and assisted on 26 of them. That is absurd. Straight line drive is not what you're after. Is Wendell Moore. Wendell just had 4 points in the last meeting against Georgia Tech. He's already got 7 in the early going tonight.
Oh, again, he's in a different role now, too. Again, no Jalen Johnson. He's going to be asked to do more. And I'm just of the belief that young guys, really players in general, do better when more is asked of them. Give them more responsibility, empower them more, and they deliver. I think it's hard when you're playing a role that you almost view as inferior, and that's going to be the foul of Matthew Hurt.
And Michael DeVoe took it right into his chest. DeVoe is a 75% free throw shooter. All of you good ACC folks out there, download the ACC 3-Point Challenge app presented by New York Life. It benefits the local boys and girls clubs. Score points for your school, and then after the tournament, the local boys and girls club will receive a donation from New York Life based on their affiliated ACC team's final rankings. You want to download that 3-Point Challenge app brought to you by New York Life. DeVoe knocks home a couple, and Georgia Tech has a 4-point lead just across the halfway point of the first half here at McCamish Pavilion. Oh, high-low. Matthew Hurt. Good look inside. He was fouled underneath, and Matt will have a chance for a 3-point play.
Yeah, and that's where him playing that 4 spot, he's going to be covered by somebody much smaller than him. You've got to come to the top side. But if Moses Wright isn't going to put pressure on that ball, that's an easy pass. Mark Williams is able to just sit there, wait, got to wait and wait and wait, and then just throw it up once the defender comes to the top side. I don't care if you have help behind. You're not big enough if the ball's thrown up top.
Soft touch from Hurt. And Matt has a half dozen, and it's a 1-point game. Good cut from DeVoe. Moore cuts him off. Sort of a wild attempt. Moses Wright bails him out. Hurt digging for the ball and forces a turnover from Moses. Here's Moore. Georgia Tech, good job in transition defense to get back and stop the push.
That defensively was a good job by Mark Williams. He used his hands a little bit, but he forced Moses Wright to keep his dribble. And the more he dribbled, the more it allowed the defense to shift into a help position, to get into a passing lane and take that thing away.
Alvarado incredulous that the foul was called on him. Pastor didn't seem to agree either, as he was trying to deal with the much bigger Matt Hurt.
What in the world can you do?
Yeah.
Look, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know how that's a foul. You got a guy who's in position, sliding his feet, not using his arms. Is there such a thing as smallism?
Maybe. Let me tell you something. That was good defense from Khalid Moore, and Matt Hurt just knocked it down anyway, man. He's been making all kinds of tough shots. Old Wire knocks it out of bounds. It'll stay with Georgia Tech.
Here's the thing with Matthew Hurt. He knows he can get the shot up over top of a defender, so what looks like a tough shot for anybody else is not as difficult for Matthew Hurt. He shoots a high percentage, and he elevates backwards and shoots the ball high. I mean, it's hard to get to it. Larry Bird was like that, too. You'd think he didn't have room, but the shot was back. He had a little lean back into the shot, and he elevated. Now come all the, oh, you're comparing Matthew Hurt to Larry Bird. No, I'm not. Just
slightly in mechanics, right?
Yes.
Tech's turned it over now. Tech's turned it over on his last 2 possessions, and almost near steal, but instead the foul is going to be called on Jordan Usher.
This is where you start to wait and see, all right, how is Georgia Tech going to switch up their defenses if there's foul trouble, right? Josh Pastner talks so much to us about how he really just tries to coach with feel. Like what's working with different rotations. The rotations aren't set for him anyway. Again, it's more feel. Defensively, they've got to be careful not to pick up foul troubles with their key guys.
Loose along the baseline, creating a little space was Wendell Moore. Wendell's off to a terrific start. He's hit 4 of his first 6 shots.
And he's done well, but 5 straight makes for Duke, and a lot of that begins with what they've been able to do on the defensive end, forcing some turnovers.
Big Rodney Howard, the transfer from Georgia, is checked in for Georgia Tech. Usher, and they're going to call that foul on the floor as Williams got up in the air, and Matt Hurt's reminding you, stay down, big fella. You got plenty of reach to be able to stay down and contest.
Yeah, stay down and contest, but just wall up. The second you commit yourself going forward, that's when you put yourself in a bad spot.
And they figured things out after the pause, ripped off 5 straight wins. They'll take on Syracuse at 5 Eastern. NC State's only won 4 in a row. Notre Dame is careening. We saw Notre Dame play very well and beat Duke and Cameron a couple weeks ago. They're struggling all of a sudden. Boston College beat Notre Dame over the weekend. Florida State, I'm not sure who that was inhabiting the Seminoles uniforms in the second half against Carolina, but that is an excellent team, and it could be that a Boston College is going to pay for that. All of that's coming your way on the ACC network and also available on the ESPN app. DeVoe with a strong move. It's a one-point game. We talked a little bit about this, John. As you look at Duke's, not only their tournament resume, but evaluate how they played over the course of the season. There's 7 ACC losses that come by a total of 35 points, and in a number of those, they've had the opportunity to win. Really, in all of their losses this year, 9 losses. Only Illinois really ran them out of the building, and ironically enough, Illinois is doing that to Michigan right now, too. So this team really hasn't always found ways to close games, but it's not like they've been getting just pummeled when they play.
No, and closing games comes down to more how you manage situations than just making a big shot here and there. So if it's a one-possession game down the stretch, it's not that you missed an opportunity here or there. It's that you didn't really manage the game as well as you could have. And a lot of that has to do with a lack of experience and a lack of an alpha on the floor. This is a team that doesn't have an alpha as a guard. And I just feel like that's always an issue for teams.
DeVoe made this strong move and got a little bit of a touch foul called on Henry Coleman III, yet another talented freshman for the Blue Devils, and gaining a little more playing time here and there and giving them some energy. Jamin Brakefield returns.
Coleman gives him energy, but he also brings a physicality.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he reminds me of a Villanova guy, right? Like a 3-4-5, where he can cover anybody. He's going to get after it, similar to Moses Wright in terms of the motor. But it's the polish that you need to continue to improve upon to be able to excel at this level.
Backdoor cut. Thank you very much. And it's another basket for Wendell Moore, who's into double figures. First player in the night to hit double digits. Wendell has 11.
Situations like that, you often think, and I'll probably have to watch it back to see if I'm right, you often think somebody just didn't know what defense they're in. And that's what leads to a breakdown.
As does dribbling into traffic, but I believe DeVoe might have gotten his timeout.
Yeah, and Usher just got lost on that play. You get chasing the basketball, you put yourself in a bad spot. Duke is figuring things out. Much better on defense, leading to open opportunities on the offensive end.
The finals on the ACC network, also available on the ESPN app. First game, noon Eastern. The championship game will be Sunday on ESPN2. Tournament coming from Greensboro, as the men's tournament will. Georgia Tech down by 2 on senior night. Haven't heard much from Alvarado so far. Jose had a really good performance last time against Duke. Scored 26. Moses Wright, who's been really hot of late, missed it. Shot clock's going to run out. Ball didn't hit the rim.
That's where Bubba Parham's got to be aware. Got to be aware of the shot clock, the fact that it didn't hit the rim. You get that opportunity, just chuck it. Those are the best shots. There's less expectation on an end-of-clock situation. My favorite time to shoot the ball, but Duke's got rolling right now. Scored on 6 of the last 7 possessions. Find a little something on the offensive end. The movement's been good.
DJ Stewart missed. Stewart does 2 of 13 Saturday against Louisville. And a long three-point attempt. Long rebound to Hurt. Either team really torching the nets in three-point territory.
Reese, I feel like one team's operating. Duke is operating, and I feel like Georgia Tech's just playing. And at some point, you do have to settle in and get yourself some good looks.
Brakefield, wide right. And a whistle underneath. And there are about 1,200 people in McCamish Pavilion, including not...
Open hand smacked another man in the face. That just wasn't what was intended.
Yeah, Teddy Valentine and contact ruled incidental, no foul called on that play, and rightfully so.
But you get what I'm saying. We do that slow-mo look, and I get that's where it gets fans fired up because they watch it 5 times in slow-mo, and you feel like you can determine intent, but that's just not the reality. And the speed of this game,
Alvarado dancing, shot clock under 10. A couple of shot clock violations tonight for the Yellow Jackets. Bubba Parham's going to let it fly. Georgia Tech's having trouble all of a sudden getting good shots, and Matt Hurt hauled in the pass, but then stepped on the baseline.
Great job by the official. I'm not sure who that was. I wasn't really watching who the official was. To get down the floor. That's what you have. Look, these guys are running full speed, which means the officials have to keep up. Good job keeping up with the pace of play.
I believe it was Bill Covington on that call.
Near side, yep.
We'll give him credit for it. Now Duke showing a little zone and a long shot over the top. And it'll be Blue Devil basketball.
Put back to my point. Georgia Tech playing. That shot right there is just playing basketball with no real consequence. On the other end, Duke's operating, and there's a reason why. You know, one team's scored more points than the other. Not many, but Georgia Tech missed the last 4 shots.
And Duke has the lead and haven't gotten anything out of Stewart or Roach. Combined, taking 2 shots. Stewart's taken both of them, and they both missed. And they were combined 3 of 18 Saturday against Louisville. Usher from the corner. That's no good. And Brakefield has the rebound for the Blue Devils as we head toward the 4-minute mark of the first half. Brakefield gets his man in the air and a chance for a 3-point play.
Gold wire. That was all gold wire. What a great job sitting.
Tonight, 6 o'clock Eastern time, and on the ACC network, there's a watch party. Carlos Boozer and Vince Carter will be in studio. They'll share stories. They'll react real time. They'll probably taunt one another so you can watch the game and also keep up with the watch party on ACC network and the ESPN app. It is remarkable through the long and storied history of this rivalry how close the numbers are. The last 10 games are tied 5-5. It was just a year or so ago that they'd scored the same number of points over the last 100 games. So you see Duke Carolina, which will likely, John, have a lot of the same feel that we're seeing tonight with a sense of desperation for both teams in their tournament resume.
Well, sense of desperation, you add that to the rivalry. And it's a rivalry. What makes it so great is it means so much to both schools. It means so much to a lot of people in the state, a lot of people who are fans of college basketball. So it's a rivalry that always delivers. I'm going to go back last year, right? It was one of the greatest we've seen, and it was a North Carolina team that struggled to figure out who they were throughout the course of that season. It just always delivers.
That Usher basket the last time Tech had the ball snapped a scoreless drought of better than 3 minutes. Alvarado saves it in. DeVoe trying to work on Hurt.
They just want to pass it out.
He almost got back to that left hand. Shot clock getting deep. Moses right. Can't get it to go. Tipp's no good. Moses working on the rebound, but he goes to the ground, and Teddy Valentine calls him for the walk.
You got to think Moses Wright was heavily involved in Duke's scouting for this game. There's 3 Duke Blue Devils around Moses Wright. And yeah, just unfortunate. It's travel if you fall down and slide a little bit.
7th turnover for the Yellow Jackets tonight. They only average 11 turnovers per game. A little bit uncharacteristic first half for Josh Pastner's squad in terms of taking care of the basketball. Wendell Moore Jr. to the bucket, and boy, what a first half Wendell's had. He's got 13.
You know, back to that point, though, you know, they don't turn the ball over a lot, and part of that has to do with the fact that they have the freedom to chuck it. They get down, they'll take quick shots. Sometimes they won't pass the ball at all, and they'll take a shot. So if you don't pass the ball, you have a good chance you're not going to turn it over. Other teams, they just don't shoot, so they don't turn the basketball over.
Really good look and an assist from Moses Wright. Bucket for Usher. Usher's got 7. 29-28, inside 2 minutes to go. Matthew Hurt with an easy layup right at the rim. Hurt, who's averaging 24 over his last 4. Now I believe, has 10 on the night. Here's Wright. Moses misses at point-blank range. Duke doing a good job contesting right when he gets close to the bucket. Moore feeling it and knocks in the three.
You have numbers. Great capitalization there in transition. Duke does it pretty well where they read the drive, they read the defense. Wendell Moore just continued to flatten that out. As you flatten it out, you get in the open spot.
DeVoe rattles out on him. Body's flying. A little incidental contact as Wendell Moore has it. And Moses Wright races to get back into the play. Rebound by DeVoe. Inside a minute to play. Now Georgia Tech, see if they can get a quick 2-for-1. If they can get a shot up. And instead they turn it over again. Tech a little anxious. I know the crowd's not full, but sometimes senior night, last home game, what's at stake can produce a little anxiety. And I think you've seen a little bit of that in the first half from the Yellow Jackets.
I think the what's at stake is a big part of it. I mean, this is a group. Jose Alvarado, Moses Wright, going to the NCAA tournament is a big deal. And as Joe Lenardi said, with a win, Duke's in. Or a Georgia Tech win, they're in. Duke's out.
Jackets haven't been there in 11 years. They, in the first half, on a good note, they almost turned it over again. So Alvarado will settle things down, and the Jackets will try to get their last shot. Duke among the first four out. Georgia Tech the last four in, and pretty tight first half here in Atlanta. Wright for three. Big. And at the horn, and that'll give the Jackets a lift as they go into the break.
Yeah, that.
Well, there's balance. Those two have dominated the scoring. They have 26 of Duke's 34 in the first half, and they had 50 of Duke's 73 on Saturday. Yellow Jackets really had an uncharacteristic half with turnovers. They turned it over 8 times. They only averaged about 11 turnovers per game. And Jose Alvarado, who put 26 on Duke in the meeting in Cameron, only 0 for 2 from the floor, though he did play his customary good defense and had 3 assists. First shot in the second half. On the way, it's a 3 that is no good from Khalid Moore. And Duke has the rebound.
But that's a feel-good miss. They talk a lot about those. That's a good ball movement, clean look. You have to feel good about that. That's something you can build upon.
And just as he started the first half with a dunk, Mark Williams with a short-range jumper gets the first 2 of the second half for Duke, and they're up by 5. Moses Wright coming off a 31-point game against Syracuse, and as DeVoe goes to the bucket, he's fouled by Jeremy Roach.
Jeremy Roach just gets beat. He's anticipating the ball screen, trying to jump it. Egregious foul. On the other side, it was interesting. It was kind of like a low-high, not a high-low, where you have Matthew Hurt being covered by a gaggle of guards. And gets all sorts of help. Mark Williams did a good job stepping in and making himself present and hitting a jump shot.
DeVoe's hit 4 of 5 from the free throw line. How would you assess the creativity on offense? I know at times Georgia Tech, you said, was just sort of playing, but generally speaking, Josh Pastner does some creative things in the offensive end typically, does he not?
But I think the ball has to move more to get into those situations. I don't feel like, and part of this is Duke's good defense. Their switching defense has been very good. When you communicate, you switch up, you take an option away. That's been a big part of the lack of offense for Georgia Tech. But the ball has to move a little bit. You create a little bit of rhythm. Within that rhythm, you get into situations where there are options and counters.
Oh, Alvarado had it taken away on a good hands defensive play from Matt Hurt. Another turnover for the Jackets. Shot on the way from Stewart. Stewart and Roach, the freshman guards, have still yet to score for Duke.
Yeah, and they struggle when they can't get it going early. And it doesn't mean you should tailor your offense around them to get them something and help them find rhythm. They have to figure it out. And at this point in the season, I think this is where you expect them to be able to make their own.
3 on the way, and DeVoe has it. And he brings the Yellow Jackets within 1.
Even in that possession, Roach just got mixed up with the communication, whether it was a switch or not a switch. Later on the closeout, leads an open shot.
This year's second half has been a strong one for Georgia Tech. They shot 51% in the second half of ACC games this year, 57% in games in which they win. And a 3 is on the way in the first bucket of the night for Jeremy Roach.
And set up by Wendell Moore. Just being patient with the basketball. Goes baseline, pulls it out, attacks the paint. Out for a kick out three. And that's the in-rhythm high percentage three.
The house of Usher as Jordan Rains in the three.
Now, they are laying off Usher a little bit. Matthew Hurt was one covering two there on that weak side. And Usher just able to step right into it. But he's the guy you will let shoot if you're on the same side as DeVoe or Alvarado.
And John, statistically, neither of these teams have been really great at taking away the three, but neither of these teams, outside of a couple of guys who can certainly make them, are necessarily great three-point shooting teams. To beat the shot clock.
That's a foul.
And I think you got a bailout foul late.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad call, though. If you watch Jose Alvarado, he closed hard. Number one, you got to give a guy room to land. Number two, you can't hit him as he's shooting. And that's just, it's going to be a foul every single time.
Yeah, Jose knew he tried to get skinny and slide by underneath without the contact. And pleading his case to Josh Pastner. But Jose's been around enough to know that this is the time. Coach is right.
Yes.
Stewart hits the first.
I will give Josh Pastner credit, though. He didn't go crazy. Look at our ACC.
That's not really his style.
No, but I'm saying, like, he understands he's dealing with a passionate guy. You know, he wants to keep Jose Alvarado as measured as possible. That's the thing. He knows he's not going to say, what are you doing? That was a dumb play. He's not going to say that like that. Look, experienced player like Jose Alvarado. Also, you want to manage those emotions.
All three go in for Stewart, who's an excellent free throw shooter. He has his first 3 points of the evening as Jordan Goldwire, the veteran, checks back in for Coach K. Not a lot of free throws shot in this game, John. In Duke's ACC losses, they've been outscored by 40 from the free throw line. They were a little bit better against Louisville this weekend. Moses Wright was a strong bucket.
Strong doesn't tell the whole story there. I mean,
what adjective would you like?
I have no idea. More than strong. I don't really know. I mean, he's got guys draped all over him. He's got to go up, get the rebound. He actually Stephon Marbury'd that thing where he actually curled the ball up like he's a running back and then elevated and somehow got it up.
Now, Wright stepped up and said it this week going in. He said, we know we are better than Duke. And having the opportunity to prove it. He's a guy from Raleigh. We've documented his story over the couple of games we've had with Georgia Tech this year. Swam, played tennis, excellent athlete, and over the top to Mark Williams again. Second time we've seen the alley-oop dunk to Williams tonight. And he's a guy that you don't really have to run offense for, though you can run a play like that. He defends at the rim, he gets putbacks and dunks, and you got to at least pay attention to him on the lines. Although I think, as you see, I think he's going to get called for goaltending there. As he continues to develop, I think you will be able to run things for him. It would probably be Pavilion, but they couldn't be on the floor with Josh Pastner and the players tonight. And here's the guy who's been the heart and soul of this Georgia Tech team. He has not scored tonight after having 26 the first time that they played Duke, but he always makes an impact. There's his dad, who is quite adept at being a public address announcer. That was a great intro.
It's good. They had the homemade strobe light going. It was all good.
That was awesome. Yeah.
And you can see where Jose gets his energy from, too.
Goldwire short on three. What's at stake in this game? Joe Lunardi has Georgia Tech among the last four teams in the field of 68. Duke among the first four out. That could swap. If the Blue Devils were to win tonight, Georgia Tech could certainly enhance its resume by getting a season split with the Blue Devils. Roach missed the three. Here's DeVoe. On the trail, and another steal by Duke. Wendell Moore, who's sensational, now has 18 points.
And Georgia Tech has just been careless. I mean, borderline lackadaisical with the basketball. And at times, they're confused. I think the switching really has given them some issues where they're breaking off cuts there. Two guys go the same direction. The flow on the offensive end hasn't been there for Georgia Tech, and at times you see guys just taking it on their own.
Double team of Wright forces him to give it up. Now Usher with another strong move. And now Moses Wright goes down as he jumped up to follow in case it came out, and he's slow to get up.
Not sure what happened. Looked like he just went up. This is just another careless turnover. Easy basket for Wendell Moore. Great ball for him.
You see Wright coming in. He sort of bumped Moore, and I don't know if that knocked him off balance as he went back to land, but we're glad to see Moses up and moving around just fine. He's got 13 points and 6 rebounds tonight, coming off that 31-point, 16-rebound effort against Syracuse. The last time he faced Duke, 12 points, 14 rebounds, and 6 assists. One of the most improved players in college basketball the last couple of years, and he's fighting with Matthew Hurt, and it's a tie-up, and Duke has the possession arrow. We've got this very important bubble game tonight. More coming your way on the ACC network. Red Hot Clemson taking on Syracuse, 5 o'clock Eastern time. North Carolina State's won 4 in a row in conference play. They take on reeling Notre Dame, and then Boston College and Florida State will lead the nightcap at 9 o'clock Eastern time as the Hall of Fame nominated Leonard Hamilton leads the Seminoles in, trying to win this conference for the 2nd straight year. Good block on the baseline from DeVoe, and ball goes out of bounds.
It's just good presence of mind. Just keeping your eyes up, keeping your balance.
During the streak, yet they haven't been able to score inside tonight as efficiently as they have. And the biggest thing is the turnover ratio. They're already at their season average in turnovers. On the way, the long three is no good. It'll be a shot clock violation for Blue Devils.
People hear points in the paint and they think, well, yeah, Moses Wright, he's been smothered. That's not what it is. It's about open driving lanes, getting the defense to chase, long closeouts that lead to a layup. Georgia Tech hasn't had any of those. This switching defense for Duke has really given them problems, and at some point you've got to stop trying to screen the ball, slip a little bit more, put the Duke defense in a bad situation for switching.
Moses Wright, good hands by Williams again. Here comes Stewart on the push. That was a wild, out-of-control drive, but he'll get the block call.
It's the predetermined Euro step, where you really have to use the Euro step to get a little east and west while going north and south. Good job by Mark Williams, just gapping, getting his body away on the spin, and then being able to use his hands. Nobody won in that collision. Can we just get a redo?
Bubbles
called a do-over.
Goldwire, 1 assist away from a career high tonight. Tried to get it to Matt Hurt. Had it knocked away. Goldwire with 6 assists so far. A bit of a homecoming for him. That might be number 7. And there's the bucket from Williams.
Goldwire's just really settled in. And it's almost as if he settled into a role with more responsibility. And the responsibility up there with Wendell Moore is to lead a little bit more. Communicate more. Help your young guys out. Teach them a little bit. It's important in college basketball. People don't realize how important it is to have coaches on the floor.
Gold creates a little room, and Wright cleans it up for the offensive putback. Strong drive, lost out of bounds. It looked to me like Duke was the last one to touch it, but Teddy Valentine. And they might be overruling it. Let's have a look.
Is Teddy overruling himself?
There's Wright on the flush.
He's going to go to the monitor. Go to the monitor and have a conference with himself to overrule himself.
No, he left it that way. Yeah. Maybe he's right. Alvarado, ball don't lie, right?
Ball don't
Jose
lie,
steals the inbounds pass. Alvarado looking for his first bucket, and he's got it. I think Jose wanted the three-point play. Georgia Tech has it tied.
Well, I like the no call. He created the contact. At times they call an offensive foul nowadays, but I just love Jose Alvarado, the energy he brings, the way he attacks, and you really do wonder how much the hamstring you know, maybe holding him back. Doesn't have that burst. You had mentioned that at halftime. And I think you can see it.
Hurt. That was a really good step through. Moses Wright is called for the goaltend.
Moore for Georgia Tech did a great job, but he stood up at the end and allowed Hurt to step through. You've got, I mean, look, simple things, right? Keep yourself between your man and the basket. Just those simple things that forces Hurt to take a tougher shot. Defense is not about stopping every shot. It's about forcing your opponent, the offense, to take the toughest shot possible. Then you play the game of numbers.
Georgia Tech's going to win this game. They're going to need some offense from Alvarado, and he misses the jumper. 26 in the first meeting between these two. Jose averages about 16 per game. He has just 2 tonight. Turnover for the Blue Devils. Now Wright pushing it up to DeVoe. DeVoe taking it right at Matt Hurt, and he'll go to the free throw line. 2-point game. Both teams playing with urgency, as you might expect, with their tournament resumes desperately needing a win. 2-point lead for the Blue Devils. Since 2010, yet still, they know the moves.
I wish I was doing my radio show.
Use those.
Seriously, right now, I wish I was doing my radio show, because I would have our producer, you know, engineer, whatever, play the applause. Because the way you applied that dancing to the big dance, I mean, you're just on another level, man. Because look, people don't know. I got to see behind the curtain here. You know, we were showing that during the break, and you got excited, like, hey, we're going to show that coming out, right? And then you applied all of that together. Man, you're a pro.
Oh, man, see, just don't let them too far behind the curtain. And, you know, if I were going to nitpick, I would say if we were on your radio show, then they would not have been able to see the dancing. Patrick Tappe, the grad transfer from Columbia, has checked in, number 12 for the Blue Devils. He hasn't gotten a lot of run of late, and foul from behind as Wendell Ward tried to pick the pocket of Michael DeVoe.
Georgia Tech defensively has been better. When they're good on the defensive end, they can get out and run. They get quickly into action. They're not playing against a set defense. A set Duke defense has been much better tonight. You can see the improvement over time. They clearly have their deficiencies and their flaws, and much of which is just a lack of polish for some guys. But they're much improved.
Mark Williams has returned. That was a really quick stint for Tappe. It makes you wonder if Williams just needed a moment before he checked back in. But he's in there now, guarding Moses Wright. Wright going up over the big man and couldn't get it over the top of it.
So much of it we talk about Matthew Hurt, just the way he's emerged, obviously leading the conference in scoring, but a lot of that comes from playing with Mark Williams. You know, he just allows Matthew Hurt to play the position he's meant to play. He's got good matchups, and if you could play to your advantage to the matchups, Matthew Hurt's going to win more times than not.
Another turnover for the Blue Devils. They have more turnovers in the second half than they did in the first already, and we're not even halfway through it yet. Only turned the ball over 3 times in the first half, and now that's their 5th in the second half.
I mean, that's just out of control, off balance, nowhere to go. Might as well just throw it up at the rim at that point. But it's something Coach K talked to us about earlier in the season, where he said, I just need my guys to catch and see. You know, just look. Feel the game a little bit more. Don't just catch the ball and fly around. Play with a little bit more poise and understanding.
Alvarado gives Tech its first lead since the 9:34 mark of the first half. 52-50. Yellow Jackets back on top. Now let's see how Duke can answer. Jeremy Roach gets in and I think Parham thought he had a steal, and I believe they're going to call him for the block.
I think they called jump ball.
Did they?
And they're going to get the ball anyway. He just got it. Just give me that. He was going to go out of bounds if they didn't call jump ball.
He was calling jump ball. I thought he was putting his hands to his side. That's sometimes the perils of calling it off the Zoom monitor. So Tech gets the ball in the jump ball. Alvarado tries it again. Wright fighting for it inside, and he dunks it home.
And that's where the play is made by Alvarado drawing defense. If you can get the shot up and bring Mark Williams with you and get him to elevate to block the shot, that thing comes off. You know where it's going. It's going to go right in the hands of Moses Wright. He knows exactly what to do with it. And say, I can't believe Duke didn't offer. Like, let's be real. At what point do you develop that edge to say, you know what, I'm good enough to play there, so I'm going to go beat him? And I just, you know, the development of his basketball game has been impressive.
And that edge you're talking about is one of the things that Pastner had him doing early morning workouts early in his career because he wasn't getting time. And there were a couple of plays early as Mark Williams flushes one home where there would be a layup in the open floor and he would sort of run past it, and Pastner would tell him that's why you're not playing. And so somewhere during that time he developed that edge, and he has just turned into a force. As you mentioned in the first half, Mike Krzyzewski thinks he's a legit pro.
And part of that edge is earning it too.
There he is again, and another dunk for Moses, who's trying to lead him to the promised land. 19 points now for the big fella. And another, almost a turnover for Blue Devils. They're going to call DeVoe for the foul going over the back.
Yeah, I don't know. That's ticky-tack to me, especially when it's starting to heat up. Man, the movement, when the movement is good for Georgia Tech, the offense is good. And, yeah, that's just ticky-tack. Ultimately, DeVoe has to beat Moore to the spot. And that's a strong finish. They're going to call an offensive foul. Wow.
Matt Hurd has been quiet for a while, just with a dozen, took it strong, but he's called for the push-off. Let's have a look at it, John.
Yeah, it's going to be off-arm. You could see it coming. He gets the off-arm out. And, yes, Moses Wright did a great job. You can see Moses Wright's face was shock and awe that there was a foul being called because he went straight up. It's a very quietly. I'd rather see a no call, if anything, but
that's John, sort of quietly. Matthew Hurd has slipped into foul trouble. Yep. That was his fourth, and he'll have to go to the bench with just over 8 minutes to go. Duke has turned it over 4 of their last 6 possessions, and now Georgia Tech trying to build its biggest lead of the night. Offensive rebound for Moses Wright. He's got 21.
So, best offense right now for Georgia Tech is take a terrible shot, occupy 2 or 3 shot blockers, and let Moses Wright go get it. Because there have been some awful ones that Moses Wright's cleaned up.
With Hurd on the bench, Blue Devils need to get Wendell Moore going. He's got 18. And he has been their offense. It's been a 14-4 Georgia Tech run. Georgia Tech tore it from the floor in the second half, shooting right at 58%. Which is a point above their average in ACC wins. They've been very good in the second half of games. On Saturday against Syracuse, they shot 63%. Many of them high percentage at the rim, just as we've seen Moses Wright on the last few trips for the Jackets. So biggest lead of the night for Tech, biggest deficit of the night for the Blue Devils. Wendell Moore now has 20.
Wendell Moore is the stabilizer for this team. Matthew Hurt's the best scorer. He's not going to be on the floor here. He's got those 4 fouls. Wendell Moore is that stabilizer, and they're going to have to lean on him heavily to close this game out.
Matthew Hurt, leading scorer in the ACC. He has 12 points tonight on the bench with 4 fouls. Fouled out of the Louisville game after scoring 37. He was exhausted, and that's going to be a foul on Jeremy Roach.
It's just anytime you go zone, I always get concerned with is who's got the position in the zone. Well, it's the offense. As the defense gets lifted, if you're not in position, if you're not aware of where cutters are, shot goes up. You're not in rebounding position. Almost as if offense has the advantage.
Just the 6th foul on the team. Georgia Tech will shoot on the next one. DeVoe getting in some trouble. Probably fortunate not to turn it over. Alvarado, right. Moses missed. Parham with the tip. Couldn't get it to go. And Blue Devils coming the other way. Inside 7 minutes to play. Both these teams sitting right on the bubble in consideration for the NCAA tournament. Georgia Tech finishes its regular season against Wake Forest Friday night. Duke and Carolina on Saturday night. Another turnover for the Blue Devils. Here comes Alvarado. Goes up ahead. The missed layup by Moore. Loose ball. That's how you get after it when you're trying to get into the tournament. Nobody's bending over at the waist. They're on the floor, and it'll be a jump ball. And possession arrow belongs to Duke.
Yeah, you never get rewarded when you bend over at the waist. Someone's going to be diving for that, and they'll take you out. I don't know, a loose ball, those 50-50 balls, it kind of determines the way this game's going to go if one team gets down and the other doesn't. But credit Duke. DJ Stewart getting after it. Goldwire coming in late. I love when everybody tries to call timeout. No one even has the ball, and everybody's just trying to call timeout.
Duke only has one left, I believe.
Oh, that's Matthew Hurt's fifth. Wow.
And just ended the game, and
wow.
Matthew Hurt with 6:14 left to go in a critical game for the Blue Devils, and they'll play the rest of the way without their leading scorer.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe a little bit with that off arm, but that's just not a foul I'm calling. And I do think that situations should determine foul calls. I really do. I know it sounds crazy. People don't like that. If it's ticky-tack like that, I wish officials knew that this guy's got 4 fouls.
But I would differ with you in this. I don't think you can officiate the game based on the number of fouls a guy has. Was that a foul or was it not? I mean, you said earlier, talking about gaining an advantage with foul calls. Do you, in your judgment, he grabbed him and held him as Moore was trying to get position. Did he gain advantage enough to call a foul there?
So you're going to look at that one instance, but throughout the entire play, there's a lot of physicality. And that's what often gets missed. It's when the play happens around the ball, that's when you look at it, see it, and call it right away. Yet the amount of physicality leading up until that is not something that gets called. I like that call early in the game because it establishes what you're calling. But that play right there has happened all game. So it almost expresses an inconsistency, and that's what players get frustrated with. Look, it's a battle, man. There, he's being grabbed behind him, too, by Moore. It's just a battle. He's not even getting the ball. I think that's one, if you want to call it and clean it up early, call it and clean it up early. But don't just call it late.
I don't love the foul, but I think what we just saw there, we saw the whistle. I think what he called was the hold before that. At least I hope so.
Yes.
I hope it wasn't that. He sort of reached behind him and tried to lock him down to gain the position just briefly. It was ever so slightly. And I like you would have preferred to see a play on it.
Yep.
So now it's going to be on Wendell Moore. His career high is 25. He's got 20 so far, and I think he's going to need a lot more than his career high if Duke's going to get out of here with a victory. Running ahead of the field is DeVoe. Lost his balance, so he just found Moses for the dunk, and the Jackets are up by 8. And that's going to be a foul on Wright, and an ill-advised one to say the least, but just his second.
Yeah, I feel like Georgia Tech has had a number of good accidents today, and that was just another one where DeVoe's kind of losing his footing. He may have traveled 4 times. You know, he just kind of turns, and there's Moses Wright. But credit Moses Wright for running the floor. Nobody else was.
Serendipity, as it were.
There you go. I know you're a big John Cusack, and I forget who that was, but it was a good movie. Kate Beckinsale, come on.
That's hilarious. I'd never heard of that movie until I saw it flipping through the channels the other night, and I watched like 10, 15 minutes of it. I'd never heard of that until then. It was pretty good. I have to catch it sometime. It's no crazy, stupid love, but it looked like it was pretty good. Inside 5 minutes to go. Georgia Tech and Duke. Yellow Jackets up by 6, both sitting right on the bubble. Duke, who just joining us, just lost Matthew Hurt, who fouled out of the game. Moses Wright's had a huge game. Khalid Moore scoring to put the Jackets back up by 8. Georgia Tech went about 20 minutes of game time without having the lead. And now as we surge down late in the second half, Josh Pastner's team trying to take control. Here's Wendell Moore high off the glass. Williams for the tip. No good. No whistle inside.
I was wondering where the offense was going to come from for Duke, because so much for Duke now revolves around defense really focusing on Matthew Hurt. His movement takes the defense with him. Then you have ISOs in the paint. You have driving lanes. You have passing lanes. without Matthew Hurt that's not there. I like what they did there in terms of going to the ISO at the foul line area for Wendell Moore. He was able to get to the basket, just couldn't get the shot to go.
Mark Williams hasn't missed a shot tonight. He has 14, 7 of 7. And now just 10 of 19 on the season from the free throw line. Check out the ACC Championship Hub for everything you need to know about the ACC tournaments. Exclusive chalk cards and highlights, your games, prizes, all accessible from the ACC mobile app or ACCChampHub.com. Williams missed them both, and Georgia Tech with a bucket here could go up by 10. Duke applying some pressure in the backcourt, but Tech gets it into the front to Alvarado. Jose's been really quiet tonight. Only 4 points so far. Has handed out 3 assists and played his customary hard-nosed defense. Alvarado from the corner. Moore going for it. Look whose hands it winds up in. Is Moore, and a terrific job by Jamin Brakefield. Trying to get it to Williams. Couldn't handle the pass. Another turnover for the Blue Devils. They are now up to 13, 10 of those coming after halftime.
And I've got to think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Matthew Hurt's kind of been in and out of this game with that foul trouble. It's just a tough time figuring out where the offense is going to come from, but also how to move the ball.
Oh, Bubba Parham thought he had an open shooter over there in Moore and threw it to a wide open assist. 12 points off turnovers in the second as the Blue Devils have had trouble handling the ball.
Yeah, and part of it is they've been able to score on the other end. I mean, I know that they're coupled together, right? Good defense leads to better offense, but when you make a couple shots and you get your defense established, all 5 know what you're playing. Remember, this is a Georgia Tech team that switches their defenses up quite a bit, which means there are 5 guys that need to be on the same page.
Lob has worked effectively to Mark Williams a couple of times tonight. DeVoe knocks it out of bounds, but it'll stay with the Blue Devils with 14 on the shot clock.
Well, better adjustment there defending the lob, where you got back to the position where if he's going to catch it, you're already there to defend it. It's not going to be a play at the rim. You can tell Moses Wright was in position for that.
Goldwire working in on Alvarado, and Jordan Goldwire knocks in the bucket, his first of the night. He had 11 off the bench the first time these two teams played. Now Duke putting on some pressure. Tech breaks it. Somewhat dangerous pass. Now they'll settle in against this Duke zone. Bubba Parham for 3. Way too long. Blue Devils will have the chance to cut into the lead, perhaps with a 3, make it a 1-possession game. Almost to travel. Baker's in there, and that's why he's in there. Baker has really struggled of late. Scoreless in 3 straight games. Hits a 3 when the Blue Devils need it the most.
Yeah, great job by Duke capitalizing on having numbers. If you recognize Moses Wright goes for the rebound, it's 5-on-4. Push it up to the front court. And Joey Baker did a good job of getting to the open spot. As the ball is dribbled, he got himself into an open area. There he is, corner, wide open, feet ready, shot ready, shoulder square, goes in.
There's Matthew Hurt, who fouled out of this game with 12 points. Hurt had been averaging 24, double that output over his last 4. And it's sensational 37.9 against Louisville on Saturday. And now Georgia Tech's in a world of trouble. Once again, I tell you what, they have thrown some dangerous passes against Duke pressure. DeVoe was falling down, and Usher with a heads-up move found Moore sitting out of bounds. He just flipped it off of him. So let's see if we can settle this thing down.
I mean, that's where I just pray for a whistle anyway, so I love that he did it. Look, he's like, I don't want this. Nobody wants this possession. Help the broadcasters out. Just blow a whistle. Call it inadvertent. Let's restart.
Senior from Canton, Georgia, with a heads-up play on senior night. Georgia Tech by 3. They've lost 14 straight games against Duke. They haven't beaten them since 2010. DeVoe gets his shot blocked by Williams, and the Blue Devils, once down 8, have a chance to tie if this goes. And Joey Baker is fouled on the 3-point attempt.
I love the fact that Joey Baker looked to shoot that shot. When you have a shooter like Joey Baker, he's struggled. He hasn't really gotten it going much. Great block on this end. But once you make a shot, you feel like everything else is going to go in. And, yeah, that's a foul. You got to give the guy room to land. There's no question.
And Parham's had one of those tonight, a couple of ill-advised plays. Alvarado had a foul on a three-point shooter earlier in the game. Bubba now with 4 fouls for Georgia Tech. As Baker, if he can make all 3 of these, will be knotted up at 64, and it'll be a run of Duke now at 7 and potentially an 8-0 run if Baker makes this last free throw.
And I like the extended pressure
from the Blue Devils
too. Yeah. Part of it's that extended pressure and just these broken plays for Georgia Tech getting the ball up into the front court. You got to wonder if Jose Alvarado's going to be in the backcourt here because they've had him up front. Just trust his decision making here down the stretch. I'd want the ball in his hands.
I don't want to overstate it, but I would say these 6 points that Joey Baker's had on the last couple of trips might be the biggest 6 points he's had this season.
I don't think that's overstating anything.
Pastner takes a timeout.
Looking at the same stat sheet, and both teams feel exactly what the other team did. And they say, look, Wendell Moore had 16 points on 7 of 9 shooting. We can't let that happen in the second half, so it's been much tougher for him. And at times he's pressed a little bit too much. He's been aggressive.
Moses Wright missed and got his own rebound, so it'll be a fresh 20 for the Jackets as we're headed toward a minute 15 here to play in Atlanta McCamish Pavilion. Wright kicks it outside. DeVoe the long 3. It's off. Shot clock resets again. DeVoe got his feet set. He missed it again, and Goldwire has it. Duke has a chance to take the lead.
Sometimes, man, shooters are fearless. You miss a long one, you get it back, chuck it in.
Shoot or shoot, always. Tech has missed its last 6 from the floor. Now, some pressure on the Yellow Jacket defense. Ball screen from Mark Williams. Who's going to take the shot with no Matthew Hurd on the floor? Shot clock at 3. Moore has to force one up, and Tech does a great job keeping all Blue Devils away. And about a 3-second differential between the shot clock and game clock. And Tech will call a timeout and see what Pastner has in mind.
Well, Georgia Tech did a great job to consider the miss. So if you have a great look, maybe it's a layup, you take the layup. I don't think you take the first open 3. I mean, maybe if it's wide open, but it's hard. You're trusting guys to make a instinctual decision in a game-deciding moment.
Alvarado does indeed have the ball in his hands.
Watch out for offensive rebounding. Offensive rebounding against the zone.
I tell you, and Moses Wright has been really good on those offensive boards. That is not what they drew up, I'm sure, and that just a disastrous possession coming out of a timeout, and now Duke has 5.7 seconds and a chance to win the game. See Wright and Alvarado commiserating there, and that was
a wide open guy. Look, if he's open, get him the ball and you shoot it on the driving kick. But you need to utilize him in a way that spaces the floor, pulls defense out. And 6.1 seconds is a lot longer than you think. There's actually time to dribble it up and make a pass.
Here comes Goldwire, the senior from Norcross, Georgia. Kicks it to the corner. Great field, and we're going to go to overtime. Duke
out with a loss.
Georgia Tech sitting among Joe's last 4 teams in the field at the moment. And if you get down to a situation where you're evaluating the resumes, which are really quite similar, but you go head-to-head, if Duke wins this game, they will have swept the regular season series from the Yellow Jackets. 14 straight times the Blue Devils have beaten Tech. Can they make it 15, or can the Yellow Jackets finally stop the slide? Mark Williams with the bucket, and he's fouled. He's 8 for 8 from the floor.
Look, you can celebrate the finish all you want, but the best thing about that play was Joey Baker curling tight into the lane, drawing defense, holding that ball long enough, and then trusting that Mark Williams is going to be there for the finish. Great play by Joey Baker, who has not played a ton of minutes this year and has struggled at times shooting the basketball. He comes out, hits his first 3, and then he's been impactful.
16 points for Williams. He has not made a free throw tonight, so it's just a 2-point lead for the Blue Devils. Made all 8 of his shots. It's the most made field goals without a miss since Jalen Johnson, the former Blue Devil, hit all 8 in a game against Coppin State. Moses Wright ties it up.
That's what makes him a pro. Is if he can make that shot consistently, that's really what establishes him as a pro. Because that's a guy that's going to get better and better shooting the basketball.
That snapped a 10-0 run. Jamin Brakefield gets into the paint, spins, has it knocked away by Usher, who saved it to Wright. Here comes Alvarado. The seniors had a tough night offensively, culminating in that terrible last possession for the Yellow Jackets, I should say, in regulation. But now they can atone with a strong overtime finish. Skip to DeVoe. Here's Alvarado along the baseline, and Jose scores.
You could see Brakefield did not want to help. He didn't want to help because Moses Wright was sitting right in front of the rim. And if Brakefield helped, Alvarado, you could see his eyes. He's looking him off. He's looking as if he's going to pass and then finishes at the rim. You help, that's going to be a dunk for Moses Wright.
Strong move, more misses, knocked around, and the rebound is corralled by Khalid Moore, and Georgia Tech has it. Just over 3 minutes to play in overtime, up by a deuce. Feed into Usher. Usher all the way in.
You see, getting the ball inside of that zone is going to give you opportunities. You go back, and again, hindsight 2020, that last play with the to pull this out.
Really veteran team, a lot of older guys for Georgia Tech. Duke, one of the youngest teams in the country. Though, very important part of Duke down the stretch is the veteran Jordan Goldwire, who has the ball in his hands right now, lobs it to Williams, and he's fouled. Mark Williams, who hasn't missed a field goal attempt but hasn't made a free throw yet, will go to the line. Foul's called on Moses Wright, and it's his third.
At times, that really has been their best defense. Or their best offense, excuse me, is just throw it up over the top and let Mark Williams get it. You know, a little arguing back and forth there between DeVoe and Wright, but the reality is Mark Williams hasn't made a free throw.
He could certainly use a couple of them now. He came into the game having hit 10 of 18, but he's 0 for 3 tonight. 0 for 4. Mark Williams, 7 foot, 243-pound freshman from Virginia Beach, Virginia, played at IMG Academy. Keeps getting better and better. He's had a fine game tonight, and he makes 1 out of 2. It's a 3-point lead for the Yellow Jackets. That pressure was very effective at the end of regulation. Georgia Tech completely befuddled and out of rhythm. The Jackets get it into the front court without incident. The elbow for Wright. Barely avoids the travel. The kick out, the swing to Alvarado for 3. And the Blue Devils have it with Goldwire. Chance to cut it to 1 or perhaps tie with a 3. Alvarado right up on Stewart as he catches it. All the way to the bucket. A tough miss for DJ Stewart, and then the foul is called as Alvarado hits the deck and has to will himself back up, almost like a boxer getting up off the canvas. Jose was taught to box as a kid by his dad. You see Williams taking him down, and Mark wanted to travel, but he assisted in the shuffling of the feet from Alvarado.
Alvarado took a shot early in that defensive possession. I mean, right off the top around the three-point line. There's his parents, there's his dad. He took a shot early, and he fought through it. And that's, I mean, if he got hit where I think he got hit, that's not something you just walk off. You know, it's not like turning an ankle a little bit. He fought through it and ends up with the rebound and now at the free throw line. Man, tough kid, man.
9 team fouls on Duke. It'll be a 1-and-1 for the ACC's leading free throw shooter. Made them both. 2:15 to go. Duke trying to avoid losing his second straight game. They've got Carolina on Saturday. The lob again to Mark Williams, and again Moses Wright was underneath, and Moses is going to be called for the foul, and that's going to be 4 on him now, John.
Hey, you got to be careful. I mean, it's obvious where Duke's trying to go. They're trying to go to this ball screen lob on the roll, and I wonder at what point Georgia Tech switches it up. I mean, I would think you have to at this point with Moses Wright having 4 fouls. He's not a guy you can afford to have on the bench at this moment of the game.
27 points, 12 rebounds with 4 fouls. And now Mark Williams has made his last 2. He's just 2 of 6 from the free throw line, but Duke could really use this one to get it back to a 1-possession game. One of 2 again, and the rebound to Moore in Georgia Tech. Inside the 2-minute mark, tries to add to a 4-point lead. And Gusher wanted it along the baseline, thought he had a look. DeVoe wanted to pull the trigger, but couldn't get the shot off.
He always wants to pull the trigger.
Yes, he does. There's Moses Wright.
Williams gambled and lost. You know, you just have to hold your ground. You have to force the toughest shot possible, particularly when you got a guy who's got 4 fouls. Play straight up and try to get an offensive foul.
Goldwire takes it, and the foul from Williams. It was a 10-2 run the Yellow Jackets were on. Duke sorely needed that basket. Almost a steal, and there's going to be a foul call as the lead Moore almost had his pocket pick.
This is where you do, I mean, simple things, right? You got to jump to the ball. You got to come back to the pass in situations like this. Post-game situations, always step into the catch. Be strong with the ball. I mean, if you start to walk away from the catch, that's where you can get it taken. But the Duke foul was actually kind of lucky for Georgia Tech.
Well, Moore is a average free throw shooter at best, 63%. He misses the first.
What kind of averages are you working with? I guess for some teams, maybe that is average.
I said it best. Trying to be kind, and sometimes even a 63% shooter gets the roll. So Georgia Tech is going to take a 30-second timeout. Up 5. They appear uncertain where the offense is going to come from. 16 points in the first half from Wendell Moore Jr., but only 4 in the second half in overtime. Now Moore has it. Joey Baker. Baker long and over the top of the backboard on that one. Joey had 6 big points late in regulation and could have used that 3 just off the mark. And now with 1:08 to go, the Duke defense is going to be sorely tested. His pressure has given Georgia Tech fits. Hasn't always resulted in a turnover, John, but it's left them erratic. Alvarado to settle things down inside a minute to play. Shot clock at 15. Usher, drive, off the window, no good, and the rebound is pulled down by Moore. Baker, shot fake for 3. Rims out. Goldwire with the putback that somehow doesn't go, and Moses Wright pulls away the defensive rebound.
Yeah, I don't like the fact that Joey Baker's shooting the ball with confidence. He's seeking out opportunities. Duke on those last 2 possessions got right into it. They had a great play out of the timeout to set up Joey Baker, and a lot of it came from the fast movement, getting right into it, not allowing the defense to get set. But, man, Moses Wright, he's just so active. 27 points on 13-20 shooting, 8 offensive rebounds, 5 defensive rebounds, and you do your math, that's 13 for the game.
And what he needs now is a couple of free throws. He's a 68% free throw shooter, and the first one is pure. This one important for the Yellow Jackets. If they can hit this one, Duke will need it 3 times. Still a 2-possession game. Goldwire on the push, and the long three attempt is missed by DJ Stewart, and another rebound for Georgia Tech. And look who has the ball in his hand.
He's just been incredibly active. I think Jose Alvarado got taken out by Mark Williams, so kind of an accidental screen. Didn't get called. DJ Stewart got a great look. Just couldn't get it to go. And you can just tell with some of the young guys, Stewart and Roach, if they don't find a rhythm early, they struggle in the game. When they make a shot or two early, it's a different basketball team as Mark Williams fouls out.
Stewart and Roach on Saturday against Louisville were 3 for 18. Tonight, they are combined 2 for 9. Wright misses the first free throw. That last foul was on Mark Williams, who had just a terrific night, but he fouls out with 20 points and 7 rebounds. And this is what Moses Wright, Raleigh, North Carolina native, has done. He now has 29, and it's a 3-possession game as Georgia Tech tries to snap a 14-game losing streak to Duke and enhance their tournament resume. But the Devils aren't done yet as Goldwire knocks down the 3, and the quick foul as Alvarado has it. Jose's limping around, but he is the league's leading free throw shooter.
You have to be aware. First off, you can't let him just roll the ball up the court. If you're DeVoe, you can't let him rhythm up. Those are rhythm dribbles into a 3, which makes it a much more high percentage 3. And people think that's a deep shot. These kids shoot half court jump shots. We'll get it out eventually.
Alvarado has made all 3 of his free throws. He can go into double figures on his senior night if he makes this one. He does, and he will. 6-point lead for Tech. Headed toward the 22nd mark. Duke needs to score quickly. Goldwire made one, and he is a little bit long on the other end. Ted Valentine is...
Now look at it.
They're going to have a peek at it. They rule initially it's Georgia Tech basketball.
Doesn't it feel like down the stretch that anything that they're going to look at it, right? They've gotten to a point where, and I guess it's good. You want to make sure you get it right, but some seem pretty obvious, and yeah, they got it right quickly.
Meet Ted Valentine, Bill Covington, Jeff Anderson tonight. Done a pretty good job. We've taken interception with just a couple of minor calls, but overall they've done a nice job finding the balance between letting them play and not gaining advantage. We did have a little issue with Matthew Hurst-Smith. What in the world? That was ungood, to put the technical term on it. The 3 ball from the corner and Stewart, and that sloppy turnover from Georgia Tech has put the game in peril. 10.1 to go, 3-point lead, and another turnover on the inbound. Tappe has it. Goldwire out to Stewart for the tie. No, another chance for Duke, and there's a foul called on the floor, and that might be a fortunate one for Georgia Tech.
I mean, Reese, what in the world are you doing? I got quiet for a while because this is the second bad turnover. That was after the most egregious turnover, which is just hurl the ball deep and let Duke dribble it up into a 3. I mean, man, look, I feel badly for coaches sometimes. This is one of them.
Tappe, the graduate transfer, hits the big free throw. Played most of his career in the Ivy League at Columbia and has had some injury issues. Hasn't really gotten the run he anticipated. Now 2.6. He's got to miss this one, right? Try to get the offensive rebound.
You saw Henry Coleman check into the game, and Georgia Tech doesn't have a lot of size. I'm not sure who's down there. If it's Usher, Moore, and you got to hit the rim.
He lines it off the backboard. You got to hit the rim. And it'll be Georgia Tech basketball, but good night. The way Georgia Tech hasn't been able to inbound it, Duke's probably got them right where they want it.
It's almost, quite frankly, it could be as good as a missed and a rebound because you end up putting them on the free throw line. This gives you an opportunity for a steal and a bucket.
As unlikely as that seems in most cases, Georgia Tech's handled that thing like it was slathered in baby oil and covered in rattlesnakes in the last few seconds. They got it inbounds that time, and the quick foul, and DeVoe will go to the free throw.
I mean, the long baseball pass, maybe if you're down 5, but not when you're winning. You also look at it and go, guys, we do have a timeout. These are things that need to be communicated with the guys on the floor. Because you all know, as kids, you barely listen to your parents. And as players, you half listen to your coach. Some listen more than half. But you really pay attention to the guys that are leaders on the floor. And that's where the leaders on the floor, these guys, we have timeout, we can use it.
And right here, we're about to find out, do we have a finish? Or is this ball game? Michael DeVoe, 75% free throw shooting. Ball game. Ball game. A valiant effort by the Blue Devils, but Georgia Tech enhances its tournament resume. They beat Duke for the first time since 2010.